Thank you for joining me for a briefing on the Condition of Education 2018. I'm Joel McFarland, and I serve as the project officer and lead author for this report. In this presentation, I will discuss some of the new analyses and notable findings from this year's report. The Condition of Education is a congressionally mandated annual report that NCES releases each year by June 1st. The report is organized into 47 indicators or brief chapters that summarize the latest data on a wide variety of topics, from early childhood through post-secondary education, as well as labor force outcomes and international comparisons. In today's briefing, I will present findings from this year's Spotlight indicators. The Spotlights are new analyses on topics that aren't typically featured in the condition. This year's Spotlights use recently released NCES survey data to look at early childhood care, teacher certification data, and graduate student loan debt. I'll also review updated data on K-12 public school finances and trends in post-secondary education. The first Spotlight analysis is about early childhood care arrangements. Drawing on data from the NCES National Household Education Survey, we found that in 2016, 60% of children under the age of 6 had a non-parental care arrangement on a regular basis. That figure excludes children who were in kindergarten. The survey also asked parents to assess their options for early childhood care. 57% of children had parents who felt that there were good choices for childcare where they lived. 17% felt that there weren't good choices, and 26% reported that they didn't know. This indicator also describes how the survey responses varied by child and family characteristics. For example, the percentage of parents who reported that good childcare options were available was higher for parents of 3 to 5-year-olds than for parents of children under the age of 1. Parents who had difficulty finding childcare were asked about the obstacles they encountered. About 1/3 reported that cost was the primary difficulty. A lack of open slots for new children was the next most common response, followed by the quality of the available childcare. Location was less commonly cited overall, but was a larger challenge for parents in rural areas than for those in towns, suburbs, and cities. Other reasons, such as needing a program for a child with special needs, were less commonly cited as obstacles. The analysis also looked at childhood care costs, finding that out-of-pocket expenses were higher in 2016 than in 2001. For example, average hourly out-of-pocket expenses for center-based care increased by 72%, from $4.42 in 2001 to $7.60 in 2016. Out-of-pocket costs also increased for non-relative care and relative care. The second Spotlight examines data on teachers who completed alternative routes to certification. In 2015-16, 18% of teachers in public schools had entered the profession through an alternative route to certification program. These alternative route programs are typically designed for individuals who have already completed a post-secondary degree in a different field, without teacher education courses. The percentage of teachers who entered through an alternative route was higher among schools where 90% or more of the students were racial and ethnic minorities, and also among high-poverty schools and charter schools. We also found that in certain subjects, the percentage of teachers who completed an alternative route to certification program was higher than the overall average of 18%. For example, 37% of career and technical education teachers entered through an alternative route. Other subjects with higher than average percentages include natural sciences, foreign languages, English as a second language, math and computer science, and special education. 3 subjects, including elementary education, had smaller percentages of alternative route teachers, and the percentages for 3 additional subjects were not measurably different from the overall average of 18%. The report also compares the demographic characteristics of alternative and traditional route teachers. We found that higher percentages of traditional route teachers were white, and higher percentages of alternative route teachers were Black or Hispanic. Smaller percentages of teachers were Asian, American Indian, or Alaska Native, or of 2 or more races. The third Spotlight looks at trends in student loan debt for graduate school completers. Every 4 years, NCES conducts the National Post-Secondary Student Aid Survey, or NPSAS. Using the most recent data, we found that 61% of students who completed graduate school in 2015-16 had student loans, either from undergraduate or graduate studies. Among graduate school completers with student loans, average balances were $66,000 for master's degree completers, $108,400 for those completing research doctorates, such as PhDs, and $186,600 for those completing professional doctorates, such as law degrees or medical degrees. Using data from each of the last 5 NIPSAS surveys, we found that average student loan balances increased between 1999-2000 and 2015-16 for all 3 degree types. During this period, average balances increased by 57% for those completing master's degrees, by 103% for those completing research doctorates, and by 90% for those completing professional doctorates. Our analysis also looks at the data for specific degree programs. For example, here you can see that average student loan balances varied widely among research and professional doctorate programs in 1999-2000. Balances increased for all groups for which we have comparable data, and in 2015-16 ranged from $111,900 for education doctorates to $246,000 for medical doctorates. The increase in average student loan balances during this time period ranged from 75% to 105%. Next, I will discuss findings from some of the report's core annual indicators. The first set of findings is on K-12 public school finances. In school year 2014-15, public schools spent $11,734 per student on current expenditures, a category that includes salaries, employee benefits, purchased services, and supplies. In the period since 2000-2001, current expenditures per student peaked in 2008-09 at $11,914, decreased until 2012-13, and then increased again in 2013-14 and 2014-15. NCES data also provide a window into how those expenditures were spent. We can see that over time, the percentage of expenditures that were spent on salaries has decreased from 64% to 57%, while the percentage spent on benefits has increased from 17 to 23%. Data from a separate NCES survey show that the average base salary for public school teachers has decreased since 2000. A number of factors may influence the average base pay for teachers, including the distribution of teachers by years of experience and the percentage of teachers who hold advanced degrees. Other factors, such as supplemental contracts and bonuses, are not reflected in the average base salary. My next findings touch on 3 related indicators on post-secondary education: college enrollment rates for young adults, total undergraduate enrollment, and degree completions. The overall college enrollment rate for young adults increased from 35% in 2000 to 41% in 2010, but showed little change between 2010 and 2016. The same pattern was observed for white and black young adults, but the 2016 college enrollment rate for Hispanic young adults was higher than the corresponding rates in both 2000 and 2010. The report also discusses related data on the raw number of students enrolled in undergraduate education. From 2000 to 2010, enrollment at private for-profit institutions increased by over 300% and then declined by 47% between 2010 and 2016. At public institutions, the direction of the trends was the same, but the percentage changes were smaller. Undergraduate enrollment at public institutions increased by 30% from 2000 to 2010 and decreased by 4% from 2010 to 2016. Enrollment at private nonprofit institutions showed a more consistent trend, increasing by 20% from 2000 to 2010 and by 6% from 2010 to 2016. Finally, we also have data on the number of post-secondary degrees awarded in each academic year since 2000-2001. The number of associate's degrees peaked in 2011-12, while the number of bachelor's degrees rose steadily during this period. In this presentation, I covered just a few of the topics in this year's report. For more information, you can visit our website, where you can browse through the indicators or download the full report. The website will be updated on a rolling basis throughout the year as new data become available. Thank you for joining us for this briefing on the Condition of Education 2018.